Hello and welcome back. Today, we're going to begin by going back to our argument that there is something more to you than just matter, than you're just not an animal. Because we're trying to discuss, remember, we're trying to discuss suffering, but I'm speaking to you who perhaps don't believe in God, perhaps don't believe in religion, perhaps you've heard a bunch of bad things about religion, and I would say many of those are probably not true. Some of them probably are. But I would say this, make a quick distinction here. You have heard bad things about men who practice religion, not about the true religion itself. If you really look deep into the true religion, like seriously, you actually study what it really is, it will be hard, actually impossible for you to find something that is really evil in it. If you look into men that practice religion, of course you will find evil things, but I'll ask you, in which men do you not find evil things? Are men without religion better? Are politicians better than religious? Are artists better than religious? Are soldiers, cops, vagabonds, thieves, store owners? Are all of these people without sin, without horrible, monstrous things that they have done at some point or another? The truth is, what you have seen bad, the evils that you have seen, are not evils of religion. They are evils of men, of mankind. And that doesn't prove to you then that religion is evil. What it proves to you is that mankind is born with some evil inside, with some evil inclinations. I would also say this, the fact that you notice this from religion, the fact that you notice this, especially in those who claim religion, only means actually that religion gives a contrast. That with this darkness, this light does not belong. That there is something in there that is not fitting. In other words, the fact that you see that darkness so dark proves only further that the light in the back is all the more brighter. You would never notice a spot on a pig. You would never notice a spot, for example, in the mud. But you notice a spot in the sun. The tiniest spot on the sun, if it was visible to the naked eye, you would notice immediately. Why? Because it's up there shining so bright. And the same thing happens with religion. The reason why you notice so much the evil that men commit, especially those that are in religion, is because religion gives a bright contrast of light, of truth and goodness. And again, I say only the true religion, only the true one. Because the other ones, of course, they're going to have evil things. There can only be one religion that is true. All the other ones have human things. And because they have human things, there will be bad things. That was a long parenthesis. I was telling you that we're going to talk about how you're more than matter and how it is true that you are something spiritual. Let me prove you first, or let me have you reflect on something. This world is difficult, is sad, it is filled with pain and sorrow. Catholicism acknowledges that from the get go. We call it a veil of tears. Never, the true Catholicism, never has it promised that this earth is going to be happy, that this earth is going to be great, that we're going to have, full beatitude and happiness here. That's never been a promise. Quite on the contrary, Catholicism calls this place a veil of tears. However, you might say to myself, well, this is just evolution. I'm just an animal and we've evolved. And the truth is, the world is cruel because that's evolution. And that's how animals survive, by killing each other. And whatever arguments you want to give me. But the thing that I want you to consider right now is this, because you're seeing this because you suffer. You're seeing this because you're in pain. You're seeing this because there is depression or whatever there might be. And let's try not to think about it right now. But I'm bringing it because these things are notorious to you because you have an innate insatiable desire of happiness. Ever since you were born, since you were a child, throughout your teenage years, when you became an adult, all this time you have craved, you have desired, you have wanted nothing more than happiness. And not only that, you wish immense happiness, infinite happiness, happiness that fills you and that continues to grow. That's why when you were a child, you wanted toys. That's why when you were a child, you wanted to play with fire or, do naughty things, like, I don't know, throw eggs at a wall or something. You were looking for things that would make you enjoy, that would make you happy. And you wanted to receive those things that make you happy. And when you had it, that wasn't enough. It didn't fill you up. You had to go and get the next one, and the next one, and the next friend, and the next game, and the next, PlayStation or whatever it was. You had to get the next thing. Your desire for happiness was always there. And not only that, it also happened when you were a teenager. You perhaps wanted to be popular, and when you were not popular, you were miserable because that happiness was lacking there. And you didn't care about the guys. Maybe it was this person, but then the other person became more popular and you wanted to go with them. And maybe you cared about a girl or a boy, and this person was the world to you, and you wanted to have that happiness of owning someone that you cared about and being owned by someone that, cared about you. You crave those things. But then once you had them, you weren't satisfied. You were satisfied temporarily, but then there was always something more that you wanted, either more intimacy or more friendship or more time with them or, more popularity or something like that. And then when you became an adult, it was success, money, a beautiful partner, anything else that you can think of, getting rid of this situation or that situation that you didn't like, perhaps in your family, in your job, or whatever, craving always for happiness. And you were always driven by that, not by survival, not by survival. You were moved by a desire of happiness. And this is true. Nobody can deny it because it's so evident, it's so true. And even now, the reason why you suffer so much, it's because you still have that innate desire for happiness that suffers great violence, that is being stopped, that you cannot pursue anymore. Before you could pursue it, and you could go from one goal to another. And now suddenly you've been stopped, and you don't find a way to continue this pursuit. And that's what makes you feel unhappy. I think you should draw a conclusion from this, and it is this. Inside you, inside your soul, inside your heart, there is evidence that there is more to this world than mere survival. That there is more to this world than just your body, just your cells, just your flesh. There's something inside you that is beyond the material, something spiritual. And at least you can begin by seeing it there. There is an innate desire for happiness, and I would add more, an innate desire for love. That is kind of a long introduction for today. I do want to speak to you today about the Catholic explanation of this. I would say the true explanation of this. But right now, perhaps you don't concede. Perhaps you don't tell me that that is true. But let's talk about the Catholic explanation of this, because one of the first arguments that I will hear, and I'm sure that you will tell me, is you can tell me, okay, well, you're saying all these things about God, and I know that Catholics say that God is good, and I know that Catholics say that God is merciful, but yet here I am, I'm suffering, I haven't done anything to deserve this. Other people have. Other people have been evil and they don't get any of this stuff, but I am. So where is your God, you might tell me? Where is the God that is merciful and compassionate? Why am I suffering? Why is it just me? How can I believe in him if I'm not helped? Well, the first answer that I have to that is this. God didn't make suffering. We made it. We brought it in the world. Let me tell you what the Catholic teaching is about this. And we read from the Bible. And in the Bible, we read about how God created the world. And you hear all these things in the Bible about how He created the star and the moon and the sun and all those things, which of course have to be understood according to the sense, the proper sense. Some things are not to be taken as some people imagine. Only the authority that God gave us can tell us what it really means. But the part that I want to emphasize today, because I don't want to get out of our topic, I'll read to you from Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. We are hearing about how God is creating all these things. And here this verse says, "And God saw all the things that He had made, and they were very good." And then He speaks of the sixth day. Now, later on, when God created Adam and Eve, well, before I go into that, I just want to mention that this God saw that it was good is something that is repeated almost after everything that He created. And God saw that it was good, verse 21. And God saw that it was good, verse 25, and so forth. God created this world perfect. He created it good. He created the first man and the first woman, and the part, the revelation that God gives us, the letter that God gave for us, where He kind of told us, okay, this is what happened. I want you to know, which we call the Bible. In there, He says, He put them in a paradise of pleasure. But God, in the Bible, in this letter that He sent us, He also wanted to explain something to us. He knew that you were going to question that. He knew that you were going to ask, why am I suffering? And so He wanted you to know. And He explains here that when He created us, meaning mankind, when He created us, He said to us, I'm going to give you a test, a small test. Why? Why a test? Because I'm creating you out of love. The whole point of me creating you is that I love you. And the way you can be united to me, the way you can come to my goodness, to who I am, to my life, is only out of love. That is the only way we can be united. You are not perfect like I am. You're not infinite like I am. You cannot even be a pure spirit that exists by itself like I am. Everything about you is different than me. The one thing where we can be united is precisely through that connection of truth and love. There's a problem, though. For you to be able to love me, you have to be able to make a decision, because love always implies a decision. Love without a decision is not love. It's necessity. It's fatality. It's something that is automatic. That's not love. So God said there has to be a decision somewhere on the road where you come to be united with me. You have to make a decision. I'm going to make it as easy for you as possible. You won't have suffering. You won't have crime. You won't have war. The whole of creation, everything that I've made, I'm going to put it under you as a hierarchy. You'll be the top, you'll be the head. I'm going to give you the slightest decision I can make. There is this thing here. Don't touch it. That's all the decision you have to make. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to work. You don't have to do anything. All I'm asking is the least possible. Don't touch this one thing. That's the least possible decision I can ask you to make, so that you can, by that way, in that manner, love me and become united to me, and everything will be perfect. That's how God started everything. God probably knew that we would make a wrong decision, but He wasn't going to take away our freedom. And He thought to Himself, even if they make the wrong decision, I will figure out a way to bring them to me and to help them make that decision. But I have to give them this freedom. I have to give them this opportunity. It has to be this way. When God said this to Adam and Eve, it says in the Bible that it says, verse 16 of chapter 2. I'll read from verse 15. And the Lord God took man and put him into the paradise of pleasure to keep it. Verse 16. And he commanded him, saying, Of every tree of paradise thou shalt eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat. For in what day soever thou shalt eat it, thou shalt die death. I think you know the rest of the story. Adam and Eve were put to the test, and this first man and this first woman, in whom was all of mankind, which is to say, mankind was put to the test, and mankind failed the test. And at that moment, as God said, we died the death. Death came into the world, and not only that, the whole hierarchy that God had created turned upside down. The animals turned against us, the elements turned against us, all the things that before were under our control, under our feet, that were there for us, they turned against us. It was only fitting because we had turned against God. Now, my friend, why am I telling you all these things? Why am I giving you a catechism class in the middle of all this? I promised you that I was going to talk to you about relieving your pain. I promised you that I was going to talk to you about relieving your suffering. Well, I think there is a certain relief, there is actually a great relief, in knowing why things happen. The fact is that every single suffering that there is on this earth is caused by our disorders. I was going to say our sins, but when people say sin, they always give it the connotation of this is something religious, it's a breach against an institution. No, sin is a disorder. Sin is a great error. It's a great evil that is done. So the evils that we suffer are caused by the evils that we have made collectively as mankind and also individually. There has to be a balance. There has to be justice. That is something that is unavoidable. It's part of every form of order conceivable, that there is a balance and a justice. That if there is an evil done, it carries with it punishment. It's almost attached to it necessarily. And not only that, it's attached to it in such a way that it almost comes with it. Like the evil that is committed comes almost immediately with an evil that is brought. And many times it comes as a punishment of that particular vice. And so, for example, if I sin or if I do evil in pride, the punishment that ought to come to me is to be humbled. If I do evil in disorders of the flesh, in lust, in passions that are unbridled, the evil that must come with this, the punishment that must come with this, has to be a punishment against my body. It has to be some disease. It has to be some pain. It has to be some way that forces me to bring myself to order. If I sinned by stealing, the evil that comes with it is poverty, privation, and so forth with everything. But there's a good side to it. The good side to this is that every punishment, every evil that comes with it, purifies the evil that was committed. And that's why it happens. My dear friend, perhaps we've taken this one video too long, but at least we've concluded one thing. We've concluded that evil did not enter this world because of some cruel caprice of God or of some, vague entity above us. Evil entered this world through our own choice and decision. That is a good thing to know, because at least we know that there is a reason for it, and we also know that it gives us something. It purifies, it balances, it brings things back to order. We will see this more in detail in the next video that we make. But right now, I want to ask you for a couple things. The first thing that I want to ask of you is, when you watch these videos, maybe there's not much good in it, maybe there is. If you watch these videos and they're helpful for you, subscribe. No, just kidding. If you watch these videos and you find something helpful for you, I can't believe I did that. Write down those ideas. Write down in notes those thoughts that came to your mind that helped you. And then put them somewhere where you can see them and remind yourself of them in the meantime until we get another conversation. In the first video, I told you that it wasn't just going to be you. I think I said that it wasn't just going to be you that was going to be able to get rid of suffering. It wasn't just mind control. There was something else, something higher. That something higher is God Himself. Yes, you need to make your effort. You need to make that decision. You need to not grab from that tree. There's a decision also that God is expecting from you. And if you make those little decisions one by one, let's say that right now you don't even believe in God. Okay, let's say that. But still, say, okay, I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to put it to the test and I'm going to start making these decisions. The first decision is I'm going to watch these videos and I'm going to perhaps write down those ideas. And I'm going to give God a chance to help me. But I don't believe in God. It doesn't matter right now. It does matter. But if you're not there right now, let's begin by the first step. Let's begin by trying to listen, trying to put it in practice. And if you really open yourself and you say, okay, God, I'm willing to be helped. Help me to believe because I don't believe right now. But help me to believe. I'm willing to be helped. Let me know what I need to do. You're opening the door, and then God is going to be able to come in and help you and move you and give you grace and give you, when I say grace, give you strength in your mind, in your heart, in your will to move forward and to get to that point where you'll be able to remove those sufferings from your mind and from your heart and be able to suffer less. Suffer only what is necessary, only what is absolutely necessary. Because in the same way that God commanded Adam and Eve the least possible commandment, in the same way God requires from you, the least possible suffering. It might be more than others, perhaps, other people. But for you, perhaps, that is the least possible. Perhaps you wouldn't do with any less than that. And so give God that chance to help you. Give God the chance to move you with grace. Write down that. And if you don't believe in God, begin by saying every night until I see you again. Say every night, help me believe. Help me believe. Give me the faith. I don't have it. I can't have it. You give it to me. Give me the faith. I ask for it. Willingly, openly, sincerely. Begin by that every night. So those are the two homeworks we have for today. Try to write those things down, remember them, and pray at least in that way. And if you believe already, well, say the prayers that your heart inspires you, because we're going to move into that later on, into how we can see our sufferings more in the light of the cross, which I must say is very comforting to be under its shade as I'm talking to you. It was a pleasure, and I wish it would be more personal. I wish I could speak to you personally. But in the moment, since I can't, this will have to do. You have my prayers, you have my compassion, and my charity in as much as I can give it here. God bless you.